Welcome to the Crunchy Moms Unfiltered, the podcast where we question everything and say the things no one else will. I'm April Locani, a serial entrepreneur turned naturopathic practitioner and just a truth-seeking mama.
And I'm Brandy Lemire, a social media influencer, a certified nutrition response practitioner, and just a crunchy mom who's done with censorship and refuses to co-parent with the government. April and I built this podcast as a safe space for moms and dads to have real, raw, uncensored conversations.
From what's really in our food to the truth about modern medicine, we're diving deep into the topics no one else wants to touch because an informed mom makes empowered choices.
No filters, no fear, just real, raw talk. Welcome to Crunchy Moms Unfiltered.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Crunchy Moms Unfiltered podcast, where we talk about all the things that gets you censored and in trouble on social media. We've now brought to our podcast where we are just going to talk raw, authentic truths because we believe that an empowered parent is, or an informed parent is an empowered parent. So today we are so excited. We have Andrea on today. She is a functional medicine blood analysis. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, girl, you got it.
And she just wowed us the last time that we talked to her about how you can find the differences in your lab work versus Western medicine versus functional medicine. So she actually looked over mine and she showed me some things that the doctor never mentioned. And I'm just so excited to bring her on so that you guys can all hear about what it means to get your blood analysis. What do you even call it? So, all right, Andrea, I'm going to let you take over. Tell us your why, what you do, how you do it, all the things.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. So this really started a long time ago because I got mold illness in my college dorm room. And I will tell you that I work with a lot of college students these days, and the parents are like, I just don't understand. My daughter or my son was always healthy. Now they have this acne, they have these stomach issues, these sinus issues. And I'm like, my first question is, are they living in a dorm room? Because in 1997, I moved into my college dorm room in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I knew immediately that something wasn't right. You could literally smell it, right? Like, you guys know what I'm talking about, those musty, nasty dorm rooms.
Yes.
I'm 46 years old. This started when I was 18, and this went undiagnosed for almost 20 years. And so, it was really that chronic illness that led to infertility. That mold illness led to 2 sinus surgeries, and just doctors wanting to place me on multiple steroids, antibiotics, all the things, and nobody was ever trying to understand what was really going on. So I got sick and tired of being let down by conventional medicine, and I decided later in life to kind of shift gears and go to naturopathic school. So my background, I was a college athlete, but I was also nutrition fitness background. I was always helping women, working with them, but I would always get stuck and not be able to move the needle. But it was because people had issues way deeper than fitness and nutrition were going to tackle. So part of that journey was really my own personal story and my health issues. But then my dad developed Lyme disease. My daughter developed a really rare tumor. And you ladies know, when your kiddo gets diagnosed with something like that, you will fight tooth and nail for answers. So
Absolutely.
when I went back to naturopathic school about a decade ago to just really re-educate myself, and then decided that functional blood work was going to be my lane to run in, because you guys know there's a lot of lanes to run in holistic medicine. But understanding my blood work specifically, and my dad's with his Lyme disease, my daughter with her tumor, is really what helped lead to healing for us. So that's what really excited me to dig into that specifically, and that's what I really focus my business around.
I love
so much sense.
And then I feel like I keep noticing this trend in the holistic space is that women who have gone through a chronic illness are the ones that are now getting certified as holistic practitioners. They're trying to get into the space, not only just to heal themselves. I mean, April did that, but also to help others. And then even, vaccines, all the things, it's like we've gone through something, we've had an injury, we've been sick, and now in addition to trying to heal ourselves or our children, we're trying to help others. So I absolutely love that. I started working with you last summer and we've been going through mold illness and had a bunch of stuff going on too. And my daughter, who just turned 18 last summer, was having all of these issues going on. And so I took her, I knew I had MTHFR. I'd never had her tested, but I suspected. I took her in to an MD for blood work. And I knew enough. We're going to talk a little bit about thyroid and stuff to ask for the right thyroid test. Like I felt like I was empowered to know what to ask for. I asked him to test her for MTHFR. He didn't even know what it was. I had to explain it to him. And so he ordered all this lab work and he messaged me back. They like text me and they're like, oh, the lab work was all normal. And I was like, okay. They're like, she's good. She's fine. I'm like, but she's not fine. Like, so, okay, you're saying it's normal. I even had a nurse I know look at it and she's like, yeah, everything's within range. They're good. So, I got a hold of the lab work, had the nurse look at it as a second, like, he looked this over for me. She, based on her training, was like, everything's normal. It's fine. It's within range, but it's not fine. And so that's when I reached out to you. I'm like, oh my gosh, Andrea does this. And so I started working with you for my daughter. I remember I didn't even tell you what symptoms she had. I sent you the blood work and was like, I just need you to look at this and tell me if I'm missing something. And within a few minutes of Andrea looking at this, she was like, does your daughter deal with, and she like listed off like 5 different things. And I'm like, that's exactly what's going on. And you were like, I know what's going on with her. And it was like, so I have 2 people in the Western medicine space tell me this blood work was fine. She's fine. Everything's good. She's fine. How many women go into the doctor and they get blood work done and they tell you you're fine or you're crazy? Like, I mean, maybe you're just depressed or whatever. And it's like, I think the goal of today, and we're so excited to have you here, is to help, like April said in the beginning, empower women to know what to ask for, because if you don't know, you don't know. You trust your doctor to know what to do, when to run your blood work, what kind of labs to run. But when we're talking about functional and Western medicine, they're very different. So
Yeah.
a good place to start is that. What is, if I go in and I don't know anything about what to ask for, and I'm a mom that either myself or my child has symptoms, something's going on, something's not right, how do I articulate that to the doctor? What do I say to make sure that I'm getting the right blood work done? And then what do I look for? Or, why would I need to then come to you?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I remember when I was battling infertility and I go in and this OBGYN, it's a male, and he runs, like, I look back at the labs he ran in 2018 on me and I literally laugh. Like, he did not even run a real hormone panel on me. And when the labs came back and I'm sitting there, 20 pounds overweight, can't get pregnant, sick as a dog, and he looks at me and says, you need to go on basically antidepressants and go over down here to the weight loss clinic. Like, you need to go see the people next to me at the weight loss clinic. I almost lost my crap, like literally, because I was like, I am in this fragile state right now. And you are going to say this to me. And now that I look back as an educated person and I see what he actually ran, I'm like, you were an idiot. And so that is the problem. First of all, we need to understand that doctors are not taught this in medical school. Nurses are not taught this in nursing school. And that is no disrespect to them. That is, we live in a world with a broken system that are not teaching them the right things. Okay. So you have to know that going into the appointment. And no matter what they say when they get the blood work back, if you truly want answers, you're going to have to find somebody that knows how to read it functionally. So to answer your question, Brandy, what is functional blood work? Well, conventional lab ranges, 95% of the population are going to be normal in those lab ranges. Yet we live in a world where 75% of our population is sick and obese. Please help that make sense to me, right? And so that's where we know that, like, they're going to say it looks normal. But yet Kaylee had 18 markers out of range. And so I think having that mindset to know that you're going to get blood work back and you're going to have to get somebody to actually look at it that knows what they're looking at. Functional ranges were the ranges 50 years ago. Over the last 50 years, I'm pretty sure our nation's gotten sicker and sicker, and these ranges get broader and broader. I look at those ranges, I'm going to look at it in a more narrow number, and that's going to help me forecast what's going on in the body. Because typically by the time we're out of range in a conventional lab report, then our body's already in a mess. So when we see it functionally, we can get a forecast for where the body's heading. So when somebody goes in, first of all, I want to say you've got to be in the right mindset. I love educating my clients to actually prep them to put notes in their phone to know exactly what to ask for when they go into that appointment and how to advocate even some rebuttals that they're going to get from the doctor, from the nurse practitioner, whoever they're seeing. Also, there's certain verbiage that you need to know how to use because insurance will cover this. But as we know, insurance can be a really nasty thing to deal with, and they need to know medically why they need to cover it. So you actually need to know how to express a symptom profile and certain verbiage to that doctor or that nurse so that they will order what you're wanting. Now, baseline lab work always needs to be done 12 hours fasted, and that is water only. And you really need to get it done in the morning. So the first thing I would say to people, if you're looking to get blood work done, if you're maybe at your PCP, just a normal yearly appointment, and they're like, hey, let's go on and walk over to the lab right now and get lab work done. Your immediate response is, no, thank you. I would like to come back in the morning and have that blood work done when I'm fasted. And no matter what they say to rebuttal against that or even gaslight you into believing that you can go get it right then, I'm telling you, you're going to get a way better baseline result on that blood work when you get it 12 hours fasted, water only, especially in
so smart.
Yeah. So you just got to know when you go in, you're kind of going into battle a little bit. You got to have the right mindset and you've got to have tools, right? That's why I say save stuff on your phone, write notes on a sheet of paper, take a notebook with you, because here's what happens when people go in there. The fear mongering can set in, they can feel intimidated, and then all of a sudden they forget what they were going to even say. And so then at that point, they're just at the mercy of whoever the physician is to just do what they want to do. And I think we have to remember at the end of the day, doctors, nurses, people in healthcare, they do what they do for a living to help us, to serve us. That's their job. We have to remember that when we go in there and not let certain language push us around to kind of forget what we came in there to do, okay? So the next thing that you want to always ask for, really 3 basic panels is a good place to start. And that is a complete metabolic panel, a CMP. Some people call it a comprehensive metabolic panel. That's a good place to start. What that's going to tell me is a lot of your organ function, your liver, your kidneys, your pancreas. I'm going to look at blood sugar. I'm going to look at digestion, drainage pathways. A lot of that can be seen in that panel, but if it's not done fasted, it's going to be hard to really tell where the body's at, because if you're dehydrated when you get that panel done, it's going to screw up a lot of the ranges, okay? The next thing that you always want to ask for is a complete blood count. It's typically called a CBC with differential. A lot of doctors will not order it with differential. The differential is very important because, April, you alluded to this earlier. So when I look at a CBC, I can actually see a lot with your red blood cells, and that tells me if you have a tendency leaning toward MTHFR, how well you're methylating, your iron, anemia, a lot of things like that. But the differential part actually has 5 markers on there that are going to help me see what infection is in the body. Is it parasitic? Is it bacterial? Do you have maybe some Epstein-Barr going on? Is it viral? It's going to kind of show me inflammatory markers, and it's going to show me what white blood cell is being called to go to war to fight a battle in the body. So that's really important, because what if somebody's like, oh, Andrea, I think I have a parasite infection, but really it's a viral infection that is wrecking your system. And if we start attacking the wrong thing because we're guessing at this, that's why we don't want to guess. We want to test, right? So hopefully that's helpful. The last thing that I say, baseline, always get a cholesterol panel. Always get that lipid panel done. Again, it's important to do that fasted, because I will tell you, one time I got a lipid panel done after I exercised, and it was a nightmare. I remember my functional medicine doctor calling me, and she was like, are you okay? And I was like, you didn't tell me that I need to get this fasted. So I kind of learned the hard way. Brandy, you had mentioned this earlier, but you know, the thyroid panel, I'm happy to kind of speak into that. I definitely don't want to like run down a rabbit trail with that. But looking at that, I would say just baseline, a TSH for the thyroid, that's your thyroid stimulating hormone. That is actually not the best marker to look at the thyroid. It's actually telling us other things about the body. But typically doctors are they're gonna call for that to be ran, and then they're gonna prescribe medication from that, and that is a big no-no. So if you're on medication based on a TSH, we need to talk. You want to see free T3. That is your free active thyroid hormone. Typically, we want to see a couple other things, maybe some free T4, reverse T3, but I don't really care how much total T4 or total T4 is in your, or T3 is in your body. I need to know what's free and active. And a lot of, I get labs every day that just have total, they don't have free. It's really important to understand the difference for the thyroid.
You know, and it's super interesting. Like, I told you with MTHFR, I had to explain it to the doctor. So like a month ago, Kaylee and I were at the ER for the day. She had some stuff going on. And same thing, like I brought up MTHFR and he was like, what is that? And I had to explain it. He's like, oh, the methylation thing. I'm like, yes. And then when he was running blood work and he was going to check her thyroid, I was asking which thyroid markers he was, are you just doing TSH? Like, what all are you running? T3. I went through all that with him. And then anytime that she would, they would talk about having like something they were going to do. Sorry, my phone just rang. Anytime they talked about something that they were going to do, like with her, like a procedure they were going to do, I would stop them and I would say to her, like, do you understand what that is? Do you understand how that's going to go? Do you understand what they're going to be doing? Because they're like, oh, we're going to do this, this, and this. We're going to do this. And she would kind of make this face. And I would break down the procedure to her, and they weren't doing that. And it's like that right there is the whole thing about being informed when you're at the doctor's office. And after going through all that, we then got to the blood work. The blood work was after that. And the doctor stopped me and he's like, what do you do for a living? Because you seem to have a really good understanding of medicine. And I was like, yes, I do. Thank you. Yes. I was like,
they never know MTHFR ever. And it infuriates me. How could you not know something almost half or more of the population has? And I met one doctor, like me and Randy talked about, who is from Akron's Babies and Children, which has been great. They've been so good because they're very open-minded and they're not pushy. But she was the only person I was like, do you understand what MTHFR is? She's an immunologist. She's like, yes and no. I'm like, do you treat it? She's like, no. I'm like, do you test for it? She's like, no. I'm like, well, based on what you get and what you want to prescribe to him, you guys should know he's MTHFR because you'll know if he methylates or not. And she was like, well, that's why I researched it, because we're prescribing kids and the medicines won't even work on some of the kids at MTHFR. She was the only doctor out of like 20 that knew this. I'm like, you guys, this is like a big deal. Like, you're going to give me something that's not going to work. Like, it won't work for me.
Yeah. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. That's why we're here talking about just how to be informed and empowered. So I know one of the things we had talked about, Andrea, and I am super guilty of this, so I'm going to call myself out on this one. But let's talk about women, and I know this doesn't have to do with blood work, but we led into this before when we did one of these calls in the past. Let's talk about women and coffee. So I have my 1 cup of coffee. I can't handle more than one. Can't drink coffee afternoon. But I'm that person that would get up in the morning, I would drink some water, I would sit down and drink my coffee. So let's talk about that.
Okay, well, here's the crazy thing. As I was analyzing blood work, I started getting into the, like, oh my gosh, why am I losing my train of thought? Like the CGMs, like the glucose monitors, right? And, I work with a lot of women, and as they enter into perimenopause and menopause, I will tell you that our bodies do become more insulin resistant. And certain things that we did in our 20s and 30s that didn't really kind of shift cortisol and blood glucose and stuff in the body, we will start seeing that start shifting more in the 40s, mid 40s and 50s because of estrogen declining in the body and just our hormones kind of shifting into that next phase of life. And as I was monitoring a lot of these women, and I would be getting this feedback, and every morning they would have insane spikes. And I would be like, what on God's creation are you eating in the morning? But it wasn't that they were eating unhealthy stuff. It was the timing of what they were doing in the morning. And the problem with that is when we skyrocket, our cortisol is always high in the morning, and that's okay because it's naturally going to be as we wake up. But when we disrupt that and we disrupt our blood sugar by having caffeine before protein, we really set ourselves up for disaster throughout the day. So we'll see a lot of blood sugar dysregulation, insulin resistance start taking place. A lot of women will think it's like adrenal fatigue and they're just chronic fatigue and brain fog and sugar cravings and all these different things. But reality is, it was the fact that they hit their body hard with that caffeine in the morning before they had protein in the system or they were well hydrated. And the body's so sensitive because you're waking up off a fasted state, right? And so that's why I tell people, even if you are wanting to have that coffee and maybe you're wanting to mix it, not with like Premier Protein, because that has a lot of nasty crap in it, right? But there are some other like ready-made protein options that are clean ingredients, what we talk about on here, right? You can mix that in your coffee. At least you're helping to kind of balance out that blood sugar and cortisol response you're getting. But the hydration piece, Brandy, is honestly one of the biggest things that I see. And I will tell you, I was guilty of it too. Before I drank really enough water in the morning or took my greens or did anything like that, I was having that coffee and I just thought, well, I mean, it's liquid, right? But you know, coffee can really dehydrate the body if it's taken in a dehydrated state, right? And so again, I tell people, well hydrated, no caffeine before protein, and it really sets you up for success hormonally throughout the day.
And they say for every cup of coffee, you actually want to drink 2 cups of water, one to get you back to regular, one to hydrate you more. So I used to do the same thing, Brandy. Don't feel bad. Now I replace it with hot lemon water so that I feel like because I want something warm. Is that what it is for you too?
For me, it's the caffeine. I've tried the hot water, and then I still have to have my coffee. But I probably don't drink enough, but I do try to drink some water before, and then I do put collagen and some protein and stuff in my coffee now, which we do have some great ones we recommend. We can drop in the show notes here. And like Andrea said, like I get an unflavored whey protein, and I actually have a beef protein that's like, it's like a 4-ounce steak, literally. But these 2 protein powders I use, there's nothing in them except either the whey powder or the beef. So you're not having any fillers. But I do that. I'll do raw milk, I'll do some collagen and some protein, and then I'll like eat a banana. And so I'm like, that is a shift I did about a year ago. So I'm not just like sucking down the coffee in the morning, but I know with me being guilty of that, I know that so many women are guilty of doing that too.
For sure. Definitely. I mean, I laugh because like I used to drink more coffee creamer than I did like coffee when I was on like when I didn't know better. You know what I mean? Like you're like, can I get my husband be like, would you like coffee with your breakfast vanilla creamer? I'm like, not really. Just a little splash. Because like that's how much creamer we're putting, and most women are still doing that. Let's be honest. I did find a really good recipe for a coconut homemade creamer, but we'll talk about that later.
Some creamers when I come to Ohio, and I use honey. I do raw milk, honey, and some collagen and protein in my coffee, and it's amazing. Okay, so I know before, Andrew, we had talked about MPV showing that being low shows heavy metals. I have some notes from when you and I had chatted before. Can you go into that a little, because we do talk about a lot of heavy metals, so what that means and why people should be paying attention to that?
Yeah, so mean platelet volume is what MPV stands for. And when we see that on the low end, and I will remind you, in functional lab work, 7.5 to 8.2 is what we're looking at. And it is, number one, not always tested on a CBC with differential. I get a lot of people, then the doctors aren't even writing that in the script for the lab order. Number two, the lab ranges for MPV in conventional medicine are super wonky compared to functional. So it's like never flagged. Like I don't think I've ever seen it flagged in like conventional lab work. So when it's on the high end, I'm typically seeing things like IBD, like irritable bowel disease, or I'm definitely asking questions with somebody on how are your bowel movements, what's going on. There's inflammation, either the colon, intestines, like digestive tract, right? And I've seen people go from like really low to really high. Like I get lab work sometimes and they'll send me like 2 years worth, right? And the funny thing is about this range in particular is maybe like a year ago, it was showing really low. So I'm like, dang, you had some major heavy metal burden going on. But then the next year they get it tested, it's really high. Well, okay, the heavy metals have been in there wreaking havoc for long enough that now we're on the flip side. There's so much inflammation going on in the digestive tract that we're seeing a different trend in the body because it's so infected. There are lots of other flags that I look at that show heavy metals, the cholesterol panel, triglycerides, HDL, LDL, because we know how much heavy metals impact the liver. Cholesterol is made in the liver, right? And when the liver gets really burdened with these metals and these toxins, we will definitely see that play out in a lot of other markers. And so I love, and I know you'll probably talk about this, that we've got some great ways to really manage those heavy metals on a day-to-day basis, because here's the reality. We're getting exposed to them. There's a lot of things we can work on. I teach my clients about their drinking water and the biggest ways that they're getting exposed, whether it's their cookware. Typically, it's water sources. I'll tell you guys a quick story. I had a client that spent $20,000 on an in-home water system, and I did some heavy metal testing on her. And this is probably a subject for another day, but when I looked at her blood work, her kidneys and her liver were wrecked. And this woman took really good care of her body. And I was like, your kidneys are a hot mess because heavy metals are larger in particle size than like bacteria and parasites. They'll get lodged in the urinary tract and really create some inflammation in the kidneys. I told her, I said, we need to do further testing. So that's something that blood work will help me see. We need to do further testing on heavy metals, off the charts with uranium. And I said, this is coming from your water source. She said, there's no way. I spent $20,000 in an in-home water system. I said, I'm going to teach you how to test for that and teach you how to file a lawsuit and get your money back. And she did. She was able to file a lawsuit with that company, but it all started in just seeing some blood work that helped kind of go, hey, we need to look into this.
That's so powerful.
Crazy?
And that's so crazy.
She's like, there's no way it's my water system. And I was like, girl, there are people out there every day spending tens of thousands of dollars. I had to study this in naturopathic school, and they don't understand that these people are selling them on these water systems that actually don't pull out radioactive toxins and metals like uranium.
That's crazy.
I know. So yeah, there's your heavy metal talk for today.
I know, and
it's just wild.
We've all been in the heavy metal space. You know, there's a detox that we all love. So it's one of those things where it's so wild when you start going down. That's another rabbit hole. Like, just how much you're exposed, where we're exposed. It's a daily thing. I mean, people are like, "Oh, how long do I detox for? Do I do this like once a year?" And I'm like, "You're exposed daily." And it's wild because with all of these things, you can do, like that woman spending that much money on a water system thinking she's doing the right thing. Like, you can do all the right things and still be exposed, whether it's parasites or heavy metals or toxins. It's just, that's why, again, going back to being informed and helping empower you to make decisions that are the best decisions that you can make. And I think that one of the areas that where we go wrong is that we do tend to trust our doctors, and we become these mama bears who speak up and we have a voice, but typically the mama bears who have the voice, we didn't have it before. And so it's then learning how to use that voice. And so if we can shorten that learning curve for women through this podcast, that is our goal. Like, another topic we talk about is vaccines and how to go in and have that conversation with your doctor, because it is scary to go in and talk to a professional, someone who went to medical school, we've seen the memes, right? Where it's about vaccines, but where they say the doctor researching vaccines, it's like a scientist in a lab coat in a lab. And then it's like the mom researching vaccines and she's sitting on a toilet with her phone. And so they make you feel like you're dumb and you can't question your doctor. And that's not true. And so we have to speak up. We have to ask the questions. Don't feel like you can't understand blood work or inserts or all these things because you didn't go to medical school. That was one of my favorite things. Like, you can't question vaccines or read an insert. I have people telling me, you can't read an insert. You're not a doctor. Okay, well, I have 2 eyes and I know how to read. So
I literally tell people all the time, like, they're just people who went through education. And if I'm telling you the education that they learned, it's still education. It's just knowledge. It's just they went through it a lot longer or a different process. And people started asking me, like, well, what is functional medicine? I don't want to go to a foo-foo doctor. I'm like, first of all, it's not. It's seeing the body as a whole system. They still use certain medications. They still treat. They still use lab work. Like, it's not entirely only naturopathy. It's, naturopathy is naturopathy. Functional medicine is functional medicine. People don't know the difference. And they're not understanding, well, why is it, what's Western, what's functional? They're honestly looking at the same body just differently. Where Western compartmentalizes things and functional looks at your body as a whole system, because we now know the gut and brain association, where your gut is controlling your brain and your brain's controlling your gut. Well, if we only look at specialists and compartmentalize our medicine, then you're at a doctor for a brain, psychological issue that your gut is causing, but you won't know because they're not willing to restructure and connect the two. When you go to functional, they're asking you questions from birth. You're like, I don't remember, because they're looking at your whole life timeline and your whole body as a system. Your big toe hurts, they're looking at your finger too. Like, it's not just about that. And I think it's important to say the difference there, because I've been asked like 3 times this week, what is the difference and why would I want to do that? And I'm like, it's
No,
a big
I think that's super important, and that's a great explanation. I think too, like, we've gone down several different avenues here. So to bring it all home for people, I think, Andrea, if we can go through and just say, just a recap, like, when is the best time to get blood work? What are the tests they want to ask for? And then I was looking at my notes. And then after they get blood work done and they're told by their doctor, they're fine, you're fine, everything's good. How do they work with you? How do they reach out to you? I think one of the things that a lot of people, when they hear holistic or functional medicine, they're like, I can't afford that because insurance doesn't cover it. But your prices are so affordable, it's not even funny. So let's run through that. Can we wrap it up with those things?
Yeah, definitely. So kind of what April was saying too is like, it is important to go back and get like that health history. And I really always do an in-depth intake form, because kind of like when we talked about with Kaylee and some other people that I work with, like, it's important for me to know if you don't have tonsils, if you don't have a gallbladder, if you don't have an appendix. And I meet a lot of people that, their kids got tubes in their ears as babies and they were on a lot of antibiotics. Like, I need to know those things, because I need to know. I just had a client the other day, she doesn't have a spleen, right? Like, it was taken out after a car accident. Well, that spleen produces good bacteria that gives her a strong immune system, and she hasn't had one since 2012, right? But I got people that haven't had a gallbladder and they've still got digestive issues. Like, so I do need to connect the dots, right? So when people get their blood work, they will literally just send it to me. Sometimes they screenshot it to me. Sometimes they send me a PDF, and then they just
I
schedule.
sent her like 32 screenshots. So
Well, and so I take that intake form, and that allows me to collab those two together and go, okay, this is what we're dealing with. Because that medical history is an important piece, because nobody's thinking my lymphatic system won't drain because I don't have tonsils, because they don't even think getting their tonsils taken out is a big deal. It's just like, who needs tonsils, right? Because that's what the doctor makes them feel. But I need to know that, because when I'm looking at blood work and I'm seeing a lot of drainage issues, and then I find out, oh, they don't have a gallbladder, they don't have tonsils, that really helps me kind of assess what's truly going on in the body. To schedule an appointment, it's honestly really easy. And I only charge $147. And that covers me analyzing your blood work and a 60-minute online appointment to go over that and help you understand it and give you a copy of that. Now, if somebody wants to work with me after that in a protocol and kind of hire me as their practitioner, obviously we take that next step. But even if they do that, I will tell you I'm probably a third to a fourth of what most people are spending out there. And I know that because I spent, like you guys, almost $20,000. I know what people are charging. I know what it costs to work with high level functional medicine doctors. I paid it. And I think that's why I really pride myself on being affordable, because I want people to actually get well. And if they're having to pay $1,500 just to get testing done, I would rather them use their insurance and get some blood work, or maybe cash pay $100 and get some blood work and afford to actually get well. And so that's I guess, in a nutshell, Brandy, the easy way. People can go to my website. It's just thebloodworkanalyst.com. They can pretty much find anything they need there.
I love it. Yeah, because I gave you my blood work and I sent you like 32 screenshots. So that's probably what most people do. Yeah. And it was just crazy. Yeah. It's that easy. Like, you could go to your doctor, get the panels you recommend, and come back with that.
Yep.
So if I'm going to go to my doctor and I'm going to get some blood work done, and then I'm going to reach out to you to have you analyze it, what are the key things I should get done before coming to you?
Well, my website has a good list on there of the things I love to see. Not everything is going to be covered. Kind of like I mentioned at the beginning, you really got to kind of fight for it. So actually on my website, I even prompt people, reach out to me before you go to that appointment. If you don't think you have everything you need, let's talk ahead of time, because I will literally voice memo somebody or send them a text and say, this is what you need to say. this is why you need to say it, and this is what we're going to ask for. And
Okay.
sometimes that depends, right? Like I may not need an iron panel on you, Brandy. Maybe an iron panel isn't something I need to look at right now, but I may get somebody that has this chronic history of X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, hey, we need an iron panel and we're going to fight for that. And here's how we're going to do it. Because a lot of times a doctor will only order that CBC with differential. They'll wait to see if like red blood cell count, hemoglobin, hemocritic come back wonky before they order that iron panel. Whereas if I know certain things ahead of time, I can teach you how to ask those questions and advocate for that so we can go ahead and get that done right off the bat.
I love that. That's awesome.
Absolutely love it. It's such an amazing resource you're providing for people. Like I was telling you last time, I'm hiring you. Like I'm going to hire you. I'm just on a mold protocol at the moment. So I'd like to finish up one thing before you start another, you know? And I'm excited because I know that everything's been missed because I went to naturopathy school to heal myself. I just didn't get to the level of blood analysis at that point because it's, you know, a lot with little kids and everything. But I know the markers are wrong. I know what I'm looking at when they say your labs are fine. They're not. You wouldn't feel like shit if you still have issues. Like, you know what I mean? If you're fine, you would be fine. So if in your heart you feel you're not fine, keep going because you're not. Because then you're not. Like that's it. I like that. That's what I tell people. Like, don't succumb to I'm fine, your labs are fine. If you're not fine, you're not fine.
Yeah. Somebody listening to this right now that's completely lost hope because the doctor keeps telling them everything looks normal. And I want to speak to that person and say, you know your body better than anybody. And if God puts something in your heart that you know that you need to fight for that, something is not right, there's a missing link, don't stop looking for answers because you will run into somebody at some point that will be able to help you. And I love a lot of people, I'm their last stop. And I love being their last stop. They come to me typically after they've done a lot of other things that somebody's kind of been guessing their way through a symptomatic journey, right? And I love being somebody's last stop for really trying to find that healing and optimize their body. So I hope if you're listening, you don't lose hope and you keep working towards getting some answers.
I love it.
Amazing. So we are going to put in the show notes Andrea's website, how you can work with her. We will drop some protein links in there. We'll put all kinds of goodies in there. Thank you so much for coming on here and just being a voice, teaching women how to use their voice. And as always, Crunchy Moms Unfiltered, where we're real and raw and we have the conversations that nobody wants to have. They try to stop us from having, and we're here just to help you be informed and to empower you.